What if the most important conversation of your life is the one you're having silently every single day? It doesn't happen in meetings, on social media, or during interviews. It happens in the quiet moments when you're looking in the mirror, when something goes wrong, or when you're about to take a risk. It's the voice inside your head, narrating your every move, shaping your confidence, and framing your reality. That voice is always speaking. Sometimes it's encouraging, you've got this. Other times it's cruel, you'll fail again. The words you say to yourself are not just harmless thoughts. They are commands. They program how you feel, how you act, and how you see the world. The mind listens, and more importantly, it believes. Consider this. Two people face the same challenge. One tells themselves, I never figure things out. The other says, this is tough, but I'm resourceful. Same situation, completely different outcomes. One shuts down, the other finds a way forward. That's the power of internal language. Not magic, not luck, just words, but they matter. Most people never question this inner dialogue. They let it run wild, recycling old fears, doubts, and limitations. But imagine if you could take control of it. Imagine if, instead of fear, your mind echoed with strength. Instead of failure, you rehearsed growth. The shift doesn't start outside. It starts with the words no one hears but you. You don't need a perfect plan or perfect circumstances. You need to speak to yourself like someone who is capable, resilient, and worthy. Because when you change your self-talk, you don't just change your mood, you change your mindset. And when your mindset changes, your entire life begins to shift with it. Every single day, we talk to ourselves more than we talk to anyone else. From the moment we wake up to the time our head hits the pillow, there's a constant stream of thoughts running through our minds, an ongoing internal conversation that shapes how we feel, what we believe, and what we do. This voice is more than just background noise. It's a powerful influence that determines the quality of our lives. Yet most people never stop to examine it. Self-talk is not just idle chatter. It's the language of belief, identity, and emotion. When you say things like, I'm always so lazy, or I never get things right, you're not just describing your experience, you're reinforcing it. These phrases, even if spoken casually or half-jokingly, become mental scripts. Over time, they form patterns that lock us into cycles of self-doubt, procrastination, or fear. The language we use to speak to ourselves isn't neutral. It has emotional weight. It triggers memories, creates meaning, and sets the tone for how we respond to challenges. But here's the deeper truth. The words you use with yourself can either sabotage your progress or set you up for success. They can limit you or liberate you. Think about how differently you might show up in life if your inner voice said, I'm capable, I adapt quickly, or I can figure this out. These aren't just positive affirmations, they're mental instructions. Your mind takes them in and begins to adjust accordingly. For many people, this internal narrative has gone unchecked for years. It's inherited from childhood, past failures, or the opinions of others. Yet it continues to influence daily choices, from how you handle stress to whether you take a risk to how you define your worth. The good news is it doesn't have to stay that way. Once you become aware of your inner dialogue, you can begin to reshape it word by word, thought by thought. Learning how to change the way you talk to yourself is a skill, one that anyone can develop. It's not about pretending life is perfect. It's about building an internal language that supports you, motivates you, and reminds you of your power, even when life gets messy. Because the truth is, the most influential voice in your life is the one you hear in your own head. And when you learn to master that voice, there's very little you can't accomplish. The biggest obstacle most people face isn't external, it's internal. It's not the lack of opportunity, resources, or even talent that holds them back. It's the quiet, persistent voice in their mind that whispers doubt, fear, and limitation. This voice becomes so familiar that we stop questioning it. It becomes a part of us, shaping our actions, our self-image, and our destiny. For many, this voice developed early in life. Maybe it came from a harsh comment from a teacher, a parent's unrealistic expectations, or a moment of failure that left a lasting imprint. Over time, these moments turn into internal messages like, I'm not smart enough, I'm not good with people, or I always mess things up. These thoughts get repeated so often that they begin to feel like truth. They become mental habits, automatic and deeply ingrained. The problem is that this internal narrative is often outdated, inaccurate, and rooted in fear. But because it runs in the background, we don't even realize it's influencing how we make decisions. It's the reason someone doesn't speak up in a meeting, doesn't apply for a new job, or avoids meaningful relationships. It's the silent force behind procrastination, perfectionism, and self-sabotage. And the most dangerous part, it hides in plain sight, disguised as logic or humility. Many people think they're being realistic when they tell themselves they can't do something, but often what they're really doing is protecting themselves from disappointment or rejection. That kind of self-talk might feel safe in the moment, but over time it creates a life built around fear instead of possibility. This challenge affects every area of life: career, health, relationships, creativity. The internal script determines how we show up for ourselves and others. If that script is full of criticism, doubt, and negativity, then confidence and motivation are constantly being drained. No matter how much you try to push forward on the outside, if the voice on the inside is working against you, it's like driving with the brakes on. The real challenge is that most people never stop to examine or challenge that voice. They accept it as normal. But what if it's not? What if it's possible to change the story you've been telling yourself? The problem isn't that we talk to ourselves. The problem is how we talk to ourselves. And unless we change that, real, lasting success will always feel just out of reach. Once we recognize that self-talk plays a pivotal role in shaping our lives, the next step is learning how to take control of it. This isn't about blind positivity or repeating empty affirmations. It's about understanding how language influences emotion and how emotion drives behavior. The words we use, even silently, create patterns in our brains. These patterns then shape how we think, how we feel, and how we act. One powerful strategy is to become aware of your default inner language. Pay attention to how you speak to yourself when things go wrong. Do you use phrases like, I always mess up, or I'm so stupid? These phrases might seem harmless or even habitual, but they create a pattern of reinforcement. The brain starts to treat these statements as reality, filtering new experiences through that lens. That's how limiting beliefs are formed and strengthened. But the brain is adaptable. When we start using more empowering language, even if it feels strange at first, we begin to create new neural pathways. Instead of saying, I can't do this, try saying, this is difficult, but I'm learning. This isn't about denying the challenge. It's about shifting the focus to growth and possibility. Over time, the brain accepts this new perspective and the emotional response follows. Another important technique is using pattern interrupts. These are conscious actions that disrupt negative thought loops in the moment. It could be as simple as snapping your fingers, standing up, clapping your hands, or saying stop out loud when you catch a destructive thought. This interruption creates a space where a new thought can be inserted, something more intentional, more empowering. Body language also plays a role. When your shoulders are slumped and your breathing is shallow, it becomes easier for negative thoughts to take over. But if you change your posture, stand tall, breathe deeply, move with purpose, you shift your emotional state. This shift opens the door for more constructive self-talk to take root. Your physiology supports your psychology. The goal isn't perfection, it's progress. Self-talk is a lifelong conversation. By learning to direct that conversation consciously, you become the author of your own internal script. You stop living on repeat and start creating new narratives. This is how you build confidence, increase resilience, and unlock your potential. It doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen word by word, choice by choice, moment by moment. There comes a moment in everyone's journey when the inner voice is louder than the noise outside. It's the moment right before you give up, when nothing seems to be working, and every thought in your head is telling you to walk away, to stop trying, to accept that maybe you're just not good enough. These are the moments that define us, not because of what happens on the outside, but because of what we choose to say to ourselves on the inside. You've been standing on the edge of a big decision. Maybe it's a job interview, a conversation you've been avoiding, or the launch of something new. Your heart is racing, your mind floods with doubt. What if I fail? What if I'm not ready? And then something changes. You pause, you breathe, and instead of feeding the fear, you say, I've handled hard things before. I'm stronger than I think. I don't need to be perfect. I just need to show up. That one moment, that one sentence changes everything. Suddenly, you're no longer controlled by the fear. You're grounded in your own truth. The situation hasn't changed, but your energy, your mindset, your presence has. That is the turning point. That's the moment when self-talk becomes self-leadership. And it's not something that only happens once. The more you practice it, the more often you'll find yourself rising instead of shrinking. It's easy to underestimate these internal shifts. After all, no one else hears them, but they create real-world results. You speak up when you used to stay silent. You take a chance instead of hesitating. You try again instead of quitting. The ripple effects are enormous. One small shift in the way you talk to yourself can lead to a completely different trajectory. The climax of your growth isn't when everything outside falls into place. It's when you realize you can face challenges without tearing yourself down. It's when you catch that old voice of doubt mid-sentence and choose to respond with courage instead. It's when you step forward, not because everything is guaranteed, but because your inner voice finally sounds like someone who believes in you. That is the power of intentional self-talk. It doesn't just lift you up, it launches you forward. And once you feel that shift, you'll never want to go back to who you were before. The way we speak to ourselves creates the foundation for how we experience life. Every thought, every internal phrase, every belief we silently repeat has the power to either build us up or break us down. We often focus on changing our habits, our environment, or our goals, but the most important transformation begins with the words we allow to live in our minds. Self-talk isn't something reserved for moments of crisis or celebration. It's happening constantly, shaping our identity and influencing our choices in subtle, powerful ways. When we become aware of this internal dialogue, we gain a kind of control we never knew we had. We stop being passive recipients of old mental programming and start becoming active participants in shaping our own reality. Changing the way you speak to yourself isn't about pretending everything is great or ignoring real challenges. It's about choosing to guide your thoughts with purpose. It's about catching yourself when the old voice of fear or doubt shows up and gently but firmly replacing it with something better, something truthful, something empowering. You don't need to lie to yourself. You just need to speak like someone who has your best interest at heart. This journey requires practice. It takes patience and self-compassion. You might slip back into old patterns at times, but every moment you interrupt a negative thought and choose a more constructive one is a victory. Over time, those moments add up. They create momentum. They reshape not just how you think, but how you feel, how you act, and ultimately who you become. Success, confidence, resilience, they all begin with the story you tell yourself. That story is written in the language of your thoughts. And the beautiful truth is, you are the author. You get to decide the tone. You get to decide the direction. The script can change because you can change it. No one else hears your self-talk, but its impact echoes through everything you do. So speak to yourself like someone who matters. Because you do. Speak with intention, speak with care. And when doubt creeps in, speak with courage. You don't have to wait for permission, perfection, or the right moment. The shift can begin now with just one sentence that empowers, encourages, and elevates. That's the real secret. Not outside validation, but the quiet strength of your own voice finally working for you instead of against you. Now that you understand the power of your inner dialogue, the next step is to take action. Awareness is the beginning, but change happens through practice. Start by making a conscious decision to listen closely to your self-talk for the next 7 days. Pay attention to the words you use, especially in moments of stress, failure, or uncertainty. Notice the tone, the language, and the assumptions hidden in your thoughts. When you catch yourself using negative or limiting language, pause. Don't let those thoughts go unchecked. Interrupt the pattern. Say stop out loud if you need to. Then replace that thought with one that's constructive and realistic, not blindly positive, but empowering. If your default thought is, I can't handle this, try shifting it to, this is hard, but I'm capable. It doesn't have to be dramatic, just intentional. Along with that, begin writing down the most common negative phrases you catch yourself using. Beside each one, write a new phrase to use instead. This becomes your new internal vocabulary. Read it daily. Practice it when things are going well, so it's ready when things get tough. Another simple but powerful habit is to ask yourself better questions. Instead of, why does this always happen to me? Try, what can I learn from this, or how can I move forward from here? Your brain is wired to find answers, so give it better questions to solve. If you journal, use your writing time to reflect on your self-talk. If you don't journal, try speaking your new thoughts out loud in the morning, like setting a tone for the day. You can also set reminders on your phone with empowering messages that guide your thinking. Changing your inner language doesn't require hours of work. It just requires consistency and intention. So start small, start today, and stay with it. You've heard your old voice long enough. It's time to give the new one a chance to lead. Speak with strength, speak with clarity, speak like someone who is ready to grow. You are not stuck with the thoughts you've always had. You have the power to rewrite the script. All it takes is one choice, to start talking to yourself like your future depends on it, because it does.